Okay, it's 11 a.m., so we're going to get started with the StockTrak New Features webinar. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm the product manager for StockTrak. I'm heavily involved in all of these new features. So this is also going to be recorded and distributed to anyone who was not able to attend in person. So if you have any questions, you can let me know either right now during the webinar. You can send me an email, ksmith@stocktrak.com. And as always, all the new stuff we've added is coming from professor feedback. So if there's something you want to see that isn't here, let us know and we're going to get it added. So this new features webinar is going to have a couple features that are both for every professor, but there's also a couple new features that we've added this semester that are explicitly for schools that have a site license with StockTrak. So if your school doesn't have a site license but you see something you want, you can talk to our sales team and we can get you set up. It's basically if you already have the StockTrak invoice your school, you might end up saving money by switching to a site license. If you have students registering themselves and paying by credit card, then that might be a little bit more of a budgetary concern, but we can probably work with you to set something up. So first thing I want to talk about is our new custom exchanges tool. So next time you log into StockTrak and you go into create your class, I'm logged into my professor account right now. I'm going to my class registration process. I'm going to go through the first couple steps so I can show you what the custom exchanges look like. So basically, when you get to the point where you're choosing the different exchanges for your class, you're going to have the option, if you select the United States, to customize the US exchange. Now what this means is you can add what's called a whitelist or a blacklist of stocks for your for your class. So a whitelist of stocks would be say that I only want my students to trade this specific list of stocks. This currently fits about 50 stocks, so when your students go into trade, they're going to have a drop down of about 50 different stocks that are available to them. So let me start out by putting Amazon, Apple, and Doug. I'm going to start putting Amazon, Apple, and Google. So this is my custom exchange on the class creation page. I decided I did want to customize my US exchange, and I'm setting a whitelist of these 3 stocks. So when my students log in and go to my class, they would only have these 3 stocks available. Like I said, you can have up to 50 different stocks in here. I think there is a character limit, so it might be a little more or less depending on what exactly you're specifying, but you can play around with this quite a bit. Alternatively, you can also instead specify a blacklist. The blacklist is the other side. This would be if you don't want your students trading specific stocks. So some teachers don't want students trading pot stocks, for example, or they might want them to avoid Berkshire Hathaway or certain ETFs they might not want them to trade. So to do that, you would again just list the symbols of the ETFs you don't want them to trade, and then those would be blocked from the trading menu. So I'm going to specify a whitelist so I can show you what that looks like when I actually go to create my class, which I will do here. And here I am, I'm going to my trading page for this class, and you'll see the symbol input is switched with a drop-down list showing the stocks that the students are able to trade. So this is a pretty good feature. We have a lot of teachers that ask for specific lists of stocks, especially if they're trying to do a kind of a special challenge or a short-term challenge where the students are limited in what they can trade. The blacklist comes in a lot more with the younger students in a personal finance class, where teachers may or may not want them trading certain stocks that the school just doesn't want to be promoting. So both of those can be played around with to whatever you'd like to do. We also have some schools that want to, for example, have students only trade stocks that are from the local region. So something that has a large presence in your state, for example, is a very common request. So that's it for the custom exchanges. If you have any questions, just let me know. Next up, we have our enhanced ranking report. So if you've used StockTrak before, you already know that there's 2 types of ranking reports available. The first one is the one that's available to everybody. That's under my portfolio in the top, and it goes to the rankings. This is what we call the student or the live ranking report. This is real-time rankings for your entire class. Every student can see this, but you as the professor also have an additional ranking report with a bit more information. So if we go to admin at the top here, we're going to go to class summary reports, and the second one here is called rankings. So this one is not live rankings. These actually are from the previous trading day, which means I'm going to have to go back to a previous class because I just set this class and so I have no information yet. So you can see in this class I have a bit more information. I have the username, I have the actual name of each student, I have the portfolio value, percent return, Sharpe ratio is listed, alpha, beta, how many trades they've placed. And now we have a bunch of extra buttons over here too. So this View More button has always been here. This lets you see the student's portfolio, their transactions, their account balances, all that kinds of stuff. The next one here, Cash Adjustment. Again, this one's always been here where you can add or remove cash from any student's account. But these two new ones on the side here are new. So this one first is Chart. This lets you see a portfolio value chart showing the student's progress over time. So you can do 1 month or 3 months, and you see basically how their portfolio is moving, and we compare it to the S&P 500 for that same period. So this is a pretty good, quick tool to use to see if any students had any specific spikes over time, or it's a good way that we use internally for our support team to identify if there's any issues with the portfolio. We can identify where they happened, but it can also give you a good reference for professors who are looking to see what else they're doing with their class. And this last button here is also new. This is a Reset Portfolio. So this is a very common one that comes with a lot of classes where professors like to have what's called a practice period, where the students can log in and they can build trades for a couple of weeks, but then the teachers want to reset everybody back to the starting position. So the Reset Portfolio lets you do that. Just click the Reset Portfolio, and then it'll reset the student back to their starting position. It'll clear out their portfolio, be just like they originally logged in. So you're not going to see that on this report because I said this is historical data. We're working on a better way to convey that information. But for example, this account is now refreshed back to its starting position. They can start over from scratch. The next big one that all professors get is our new Forex trading simulation. So historically we've had our spots trading pit, and in previous I'll need to set up a new class to do this really quick. In previous sessions, the way our currencies have worked is that professors, our students basically are trading on a cash basis. So if I want to buy a pound, I would buy 1 pound, which costs me, $2 or so. With the new Forex simulation, it actually works the way Forex works in the real world. Students are buying on margin. It uses a margin requirement. They're not cash transactions until the position is settled. The Forex charts are updating in real time and streaming. The currency pairs are all available. The prices are ticking every couple of seconds as they update in the real world. Everything is in one place, so buy short, sell short, and cover, so students can do a little bit more rapid fire trading. And we use the actual margin requirements that are used on the actual exchanges instead of it being just a cash basis. So the Forex trading simulation has come a long way. We have been doing a bunch of testing on it all through the spring semester with a certain number of classes that were invited to participate, and now it's been released for everybody. So really looking forward to this for classes that especially have an emphasis on international hedging or international investing strategies. This is going to become a major player in StockTrak moving forward. So we basically pair these out by the general currency pairs. The students can go through pages to see all of them. They can also just specify down to the U.S. crosses, the Great GBP crosses. We're going to be adding a couple more tabs in here depending on how we actually see this being used. So basically our goal is to make it as intuitive as possible and have everything as upfront as students actually need. So as we see more students using it, this is going to evolve a little bit more to optimize how they're actually interacting with the page. So the next major feature is actually one that is just for the schools with the site license. This one is called user account generation. So typically on StockTrak, the way a student registers is a professor creates their class and we give them a link. The professor gives that link to their students, which invites them to actually register for the class. If it's a student payment, then the student will be asked to enter their credit card information or a book code when they register. So classes that are using a site license, they can skip that step. So under their class summary reports, we have a new feature in what's called the registration file. So in the registration file, you can just say, instead of having the students register themselves, you can say, I just want you to give me 15 students. So you just specify a prefix for the username. You can say how many usernames you need, and the system will give out the logins that you need. So here we are. It just generated me 15 accounts, and I can distribute these to my students. So also from your registration file, we've also upgraded this. We're adding in a new feature to the registration file where you'll be able to change every student's username and update their passwords from this page. So you can do a little bit more of the legwork necessary to modify these themselves. Now this Generate Teams feature has come up for us because there's more and more schools that are doing high school challenges or situations where they don't want the students to input any personal information whatsoever. So that's fine, and that's why this was added. This is mostly used in the classes where the teacher doesn't want the students to enter any personal information, or the school has a site license and they just want to be able to distribute accounts. So if you have a site license, this is already available for you. If you normally have the students register by themselves, you can talk with our sales team about getting this functionality if you need it for a special challenge that you want to run. Next up is our new diversification report. So up at the top of the page here, we added our activity report last semester, which shows how the students interact with your site over time. There's not much to see on this report because I haven't really been doing anything in this test class, but it would show how many orders and how many trades are placed over time, and then you can see that same information for every student. If I go over to my diversification report, this one gives you a little bit more information about how the students are actually investing in your class. So over time, you're going to see the class breakdown of how the entire class's portfolio is broken down by equities, mutual funds, bonds, options, and cash. We used to include spots, but we're no longer including that, and options will be there too. So anything that's on a cash basis, not just a margin trade, is going to be featured in here to show how the student's portfolio value is breaking down by security type. So up here is going to be the summary for the whole class, so you can see how the whole class is moving, but down here you'll have that same information on a per student basis. So clicking View Diversification, for example, is going to show you a pie chart showing how the students have broken it down by these various security types, and it'll show you also by economic sector how they're allocated. So just a little bit clearer screenshot. This is what it would look like for a class that's already started trading, where it kind of shows this class is about half their money is still in cash, about half is in equities, and there's a very small amount invested in options and bonds. So, and then down here you'd be able to click on each individual student to see how that's actually broken down too. Now the diversification report at this moment is a little bit limited in the amount of data it can load at one single time. So if you have a class with over 50 students, then this class summary report at the top here might not be completely accurate because there's just a limit on how much individual data we can load for every single day. But the summary per student will be fine. So you can see how your students are broken down by security type, and more importantly, how they're broken down by sector. We're going to list all of the different sectors that are for their U.S. equities only, because that's where we have the data. Next up is, and actually the last feature that we are releasing this spring is the Teams feature. So if you've used one of our branded sites before, you might have seen the Teams feature in the past, but we've released it on the StockTrak.com platform this semester for schools with a site license. Now with a team, a lot of schools already have their students working in groups, but it becomes difficult to identify exactly what student has done what in their team. So with the Teams feature, what happens is that instead, every student still gets their own login. So every student still logs in with their own unique username and password. Every student gets their starting cash, and they can make all of their trades and all of their own investments. But by using Teams, what you're going to do is say that I'm adding a new team, for example, Team Bulldogs, for example. Now I can add students to this team, as many students as I want to add. So 1 or 2 or 3 or however many students in each every team. Now when these students log in and they start trading in their own personal portfolios, their portfolios are going to be aggregated together into this big team portfolio. So this team is going to have, the teacher can view who's in the team, the teacher can see what's in the team portfolio, the students will have a rankings page that shows how their team is comparing against all the other teams in the class, and we also calculate the Sharpe ratio for each team. So that means for the professor, you get the best of both worlds. You can still see exactly what every student is doing, and every student can have a mandate that they're required to fill that you're able to see. But at the same team, you can put specific emphasis on what the groups as a whole are supposed to be doing. So the group will have their own rankings page. You can see who's contributing to the group, who isn't, and they have a collaborative strategy that they're executing rather than just all working individually. So again, the Teams feature is available if you have a site license for StockTrak. If you're using individual accounts, it's not available at this time. We're considering changing that depending on what the professor feedback is for the Teams for this spring. If you want access to it and you are using individual accounts, you can let us know and we can see if we can set up a test for you. Otherwise, that is the majority of the new features. There has been a lot of cleanup of smaller bugs. For example, we have been doing a lot of back-end work on our futures trading feed for basically the entire fall. We've done a lot of work to improve the reliability of that and improve how the trading works. We've updated a lot of data feeds. We're working on now a new feature to verify a new layer of data validation before it goes through, which is going to minimize even further any pricing errors that students may have seen in the past. So a lot of the other stuff that we've been doing is back-end work that might not be clearly obvious, but basically bug fixes. So we've been doing a lot of emphasis on making sure the platform runs as smoothly as it possibly can for this spring. So as always, every page you see as a professor has this live support. This goes to the support team and myself, and you can either ask us a question about your class. If you have a problem with a student's portfolio that you want to check, let us know and we'll investigate. One other important thing to mention is that this semester and next semester, the top student of every class with 20 students or more is going to win a free certification course of their choice. So we're putting more and more of an emphasis on making sure students are career ready when they graduate. So the top student in every class of 20 more students can pick a CFA prep course, CFP prep course, CPA, SIE, Series 7 or Series 63. We work with Wiley Publishing, and they're the ones who provide the course themselves, and they're happy to talk with any professors about these courses and how they're available for their students. And we're also giving discounts to every student who isn't the first place in their class, but they're still interested in getting these courses. They can get a very good rate coming through us because we have negotiated to get a special rate for these university students in these finance classes. So that's all the new features. There's also a bunch of stuff still coming this spring and summer, which we're going to have more webinars going throughout the semester. Some stuff that we're looking at is making it so you can have weekly deposits into your student's account. For personal finances, we're working on a new budgeting game, which we currently have available for high schools. If you are teaching a personal finance class or you have a colleague who might be interested, we can combine our personal finance curriculum we've developed. We have our budgeting game and we have our basic portfolio simulation that are all being aggregated together. And we would love a chance to talk with them and see how it can work with their classes. And otherwise, let us know if there's any other questions you have. So I'm going to open it up to the floor and see if there's any questions before I close the webinar. I have a few professors in attendance. Okay, so for now, I don't see any questions coming in. I kind of went through everything really fast. Some of these new reports and some of these new features you're just going to notice on your own while you're going through it. Oh, can you see the student diversification report? Let me switch to a class that actually has something in it that would be helpful for the diversification report. Here we go. So this one has a few things in it of teams that I've built up. You can see it's divided up between cash and equities. And this, as I said at the top of the page, is a sum of the class as a whole. So basically how everybody in the class is doing together. And if I go down here, I can see the individual students. So let me see if I have one that actually has some good trades in it to a breakdown. It looks like this second I do not. I think if I make a couple trades, I can get something in here, though. So let's. So let me pull up my diversification report for what I just did. Test exchange. I just placed a couple trades in my professor account. So when I click view diversification, now you can see I have some equities pulling up my pie chart here. If I go to sectors, you can see I have the services and I have the technology. The services I believe is Amazon and the technology is Google. These use the S&P 500 sectors classification for the stocks. Oh, so that actually is an important clarification. This information at the top here, again, is all historical. So the most recent day is yesterday. But when you go to actually view a student, this is all live data. So I can see their portfolio in real time. When I click their diversification, it's showing their real-time status for their sectors and security types. Can the student see their own diversification? Yes. If the student goes to their dashboard, so I switch to the student view of the dashboard, they have their pie chart here where they see their allocation. They can also see their industry allocation. They can see how they're broken down by symbol, and they can even see how they're broken down by market cap. So when a student logs in, this is the page they see, and the pie chart showing the diversification is kind of the centerpiece of that page. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I'm going to close this out for today. I will make the recording available hopefully by the end of today, but it might be early tomorrow morning to all professors, both in attendance and those who weren't able to make it. And if you have any questions, like I said, just let me know. We'll be happy to help. So have a good day.